Let's do it.
You're on live with Randy and Teddy. What's this show called, Randy? You're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. It is November 29th. It's the top of the lunch hour.
Yep.
And our special guest today is Wanda Ladd, and we'll tell you a little bit more about her in a few minutes. But first, let me introduce myself while Randy chases a few ducks and gets them all lined up. I'm Teddy Burriss. I'm a LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach. My purpose is to help individuals who want to use LinkedIn as a business tool. I do one-on-one coaching, corporate training, have courses on the internet. And again, I will remind everyone, I will stand on a street corner and preach the power of LinkedIn wearing a sandwich board. And so our special guest today, again, is Wanda Ladd. Boom, I got his eyeballs. I know he's got all the ducks lined up. Randy, would you say hello to our audience, please?
Yeah, happy to. And we're on live now, sharing it on Facebook and LinkedIn, so we're in good shape. Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina, director for our professional center, based in Winston-Salem. And yeah, we have heat on, so we're still in business. It's cold outside. Clients all over the country. If you or maybe somebody you know is a professional and considering or maybe in knee deep in a job search, we're happy to try to help out. All services are free, but you need to reach out and find me. Connect with me on LinkedIn, find me, and we'll get you on the calendar. But as I've been saying now for 3 years, almost 4 years, every Wednesday, Teddy and I get together for an hour and we learn some stuff, have fun along the way. And as always, this week is no exception. So before we dive into the show, I want to remind you, if you have comments or questions for our guest today, please put them in the chat box, and I'll keep an eye on the chat and work those in where appropriate. Teddy.
Good stuff, dude. Good. Wanda Ladd. Wanda, for double-digit decades. Make sure I say that right, not century. Double-digit decades.
I don't like how that sounds, Teddy.
Has been working in HR and helping organizations, to attract and retain the right peeps. Somebody had a conversation with somebody not too long ago, Wanda. I'll let you introduce yourself in a minute. They said talent acquisition is such a horrible phrase. It's like, fishing in a pond. But Wanda's been helping organizations with talent management and retention since for the last couple of decades. 2013, I think you joined Marsh McClellan Agency in a similar role. Wanda, thank you for showing up. Would you say hello to our audience and let all 11,000 of them know who you are?
Thanks so much. So I'm Wanda Ladd, and I do work as the Vice President of Talent Acquisition and Organizational Development at Marsh McLennan Agency in the Mid-Atlantic region. And so we have about 1,200 colleagues in the Mid-Atlantic, and, really I just go out there and really work with my teams to find the best talent that's going to be, take us into the future, and then also to help them grow in their careers once they get here. Make sure they're onboarded, make sure they have a career path, and then hopefully create a place where they can stay until they retire. So that's what gets me excited and gets me up in the morning.
Teddy's making himself look purty over there.
Dale said that I messed up this morning. And,
you have to get on the lighting crew. You have to pay him a little better, Teddy. Your wardrobe and your makeup and your lighting crew over there, they're sleeping on you. Hey, Wanda, before we dive into the show and get into a lot of the meat of this thing, I'm always curious for people's why and how you got started doing what you do and why it really drives you today.
The why for me is really, it's so cool to bring somebody in and then watch them grow in their career. I think that's why, the internship program, for example, is so such a huge part of who I am and what I do, is because, we recruit these kids and you watch them come in and you can see them just absorbing everything all summer, and then we hire them and then they come back and then they're, before you know it, they're a VP and, they're doing great things. So it's just that thrill of watching other people grow and really having an impact on their career is what I try to do on a daily basis.
Good deal. And you can see the fruits of your labor too. Oftentimes people in a job, they don't get to see the end result. They just do it and hand it off or whatever, but you're able to see people flourishing in their job, and to know that you had a part in them getting there, that's got to be very fulfilling. So it's exciting to hear about it. Interesting to learn some more. So Teddy.
Good stuff.
Mhm.
All right, Wanda, there's a term that you and I used when we were chatting a couple weeks ago: talent shortage. Is this real? Is this across all industries, across all roles? Share a little bit about your perspective of this.
Very real. So absolutely, we're seeing it every day, and we're seeing it in more and more positions than we did before. For a long time, it was just on the service side, that we were finding trouble finding senior folks. But we're even seeing it, in accounting positions or administrative positions or IT positions. It's pretty much across the board. And there's just not the people. It used to be that you were looking for X number of years of experience, and we can't do that anymore. We have to look for specific skills versus years, because years don't always translate to the right person. And then two, it's just there's not enough people out there with that level of years.
Yeah. I make it earlier, and when we were in the green room, I mentioned to you that LinkedIn has made a change in their job module in the nursing industry. If you're looking for a nursing job, I don't know all the details about it, but I saw a quick little story about it. If you're looking for a nursing job, you can say I'm looking for nursing, or you can say a specific nursing title. Then there's a drop down that they've added that you can choose a particular nursing environments. And there's, I didn't read the whole thing, but it was a long list. It just wasn't, ER or, office practice. It's pretty interesting. And the point here is LinkedIn has discovered, been told, prompted, or encouraged that that's an industry that they should improve the opportunities for nurses to find jobs. So bottom line is, I was being facetious. I know there's a talent shortage across, and for lots of different reasons, not because people went away. I mean, even that's a piece of it. It's also,
that's part of it, actually.
Yeah. There's also people like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do it that way anymore, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Well,
Randy,
it used to be.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Wanda.
It used to be, people applied for positions. That really is no longer the case, hardly at all. Usually we're outsourcing passive candidates because we don't even have the applicant level that we had in the past, for sure.
Yeah. By the way, another tip, another point. Randy, let me share this, and you'll grab Dale. The other point was, I read another article recently where there is now an AI application that the guy says, I can help you get a nuclear scientist job or whatever the heck it is, and this is how I will help you do it. Subscribe to my AI tool, and it will apply to 1,000 jobs a day for you. Now, aren't you looking forward to that one?
Yeah, no.
Hey, Dale, and by the way, Dale's going to be subbing for Teddy next week, I believe, as a co-host along with me, and we'll have a special guest. But Dale actually typed in this question for us, and this deals with AI. So in addition to the applicant tracking system, AI now is becoming pretty pervasive in the HR recruiting and sourcing role. So what is your feeling on the use of AI in HR? And then also, when a candidate has the option to opt out of using AI to evaluate their resume, should they? And the answer can't be, it depends. That's the answer. That's the answer. That's the answer all three of us give 90% of the time. It depends. So let's rule that
really
one out.
depends.
But what do you think?
I mean, definitely AI, I think, has a place. We are using it to help us, refine our searches. It's helping us write job postings, job, ads. I wouldn't, if somebody is opting out of, AI from a resume perspective, I didn't even know our ATS could do that. So that's good to know. But, you know, if we are getting, you know, hundreds of applicants, we're going to change our interview process. And so then we're going to use, you know, video interviews and other things to kind of screen candidates. Because if they're not willing to do a video interview, then they probably don't really want to work for us. You know, and so we really want people who are going to come and want to be where we are. So I think it has its place. I'm not sure. And I think, you know, probably larger organizations probably can utilize it more. We're pretty hands-on. So we personally haven't used it a lot other than, you know, to help us from a, you know, efficiency standpoint on postings and things like that. But, you know, we know that, you know, they can use it to write their resume. They can use it, you know, to get answers to interview questions. You know, they've got a lot of resources at their fingertips that, you know, weren't available before, which is definitely made it interesting. You got to ask better questions.
That's right.
Because there's a lot of bad answers out there.
And Teddy, if let me just throw this out, and we can address it later, Teddy, however you may want to work it in. But I have something that I've been preaching for years and years. Back when Teddy and I were much younger, there was no internet, and you applied through the mail, or if you were super sophisticated, the fax machine. And the applicant pool was smaller because people couldn't access those jobs. You had to read the paper. Now that any Tom, Dick, and Harry with a keyboard can access darn near anything in the world, theoretically, you're going to get more competition for those jobs. And with AI being prevalent, and more so, even an old timer like me can access that. So now you have a bunch of spiffy AI fine-tuned candidates. So what I've been preaching for years is networking is more important than ever, because how do you determine who you want to hire? And so I want to work that in at some point, Teddy, just to plant the seed with you as well on that. The value of networking versus relying on the keyboard.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. The power of using bots to network for us. I'm with you, buddy. I got the right words. So, all right, Wanda.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. That's a whole nother story for another day.
Oh yeah, it is.
So, all right. Transferable skills. I absolutely despise that phrase, transferable skills. But I get it. I understand. It's, you know, being able to bring the whole package that I have and be able to use my experiences, et cetera, in other roles. So talk a little bit about, you know, how does this apply in today, moving forward? How does this whole context of, you know, bringing new skills to new roles, or bringing my old skills to new roles?
Well, I kind of see there's a couple of reasons why this is so important. You know, one is obviously the talent shortage. You know, there's not, you know, that pool of senior account managers that have been in the industry for 20 years that are, you know, that are lining up to, you know, to come to work. They've either changed industries, they're, you know, they're retired, whatever it might be. So, you know, we really have to rely on the fact that, you know, skills that somebody could have gained in a different industry will apply and allow them to kind of consume what we're teaching and what we're trying to have them do for us. So it's really a necessity from a recruiting perspective. But I think the other huge piece of transferable skills is DE&I. You know, I'm in the insurance industry. You know, we are, it has always been, you know, in the history, a very white, male-dominated industry. And so if we are not, you know, pulling folks in from other industries, you know, trying to find, you know, people from different backgrounds, whether that's veteran, whatever it might be, you know, we really have to be able to look at what are those transferable skills. Because if we're just pulling from our industry today, we're not going to meet our DE&I goals. Yeah,
there's I worked for a guy for many years who's from the Olson staffing. I can't remember the big staffing firm. And one of the things that he said, this has been 30 years now, 25, 30 years. He said some of the best candidates we can bring to our organization which was a facility management organization. He said some of the best candidates we can bring in are those who worked in enterprise rental. Nothing to do with our industry, but the development that group of employees had in that organization were stellar back in those days. And so I get it, you never know. Just because they were an elevator operator may mean that they are absolutely a fabulous customer service person. That was a great analogy, Randy. You got to say so.
It has its ups and downs, Teddy. I'll give you that.
And boom. So I get it. I get it. It's I don't like the phrase transferable skills, but all of our experiences that we've garnered and collected and put in our satchel and our quiver can take us to a whole nother route, and help an organization be more successful. The challenge is for all of us on both sides of the table to discover that. Yeah.
And a lot of times you'll find trends, like we've noticed that teachers make great account managers. They're nurturing, they're consultative, they want to take care of the client, and so we have, really had a lot of success in bringing teachers on board to be in the client service area. So you start to see that, and you can really start to recruit there.
Hey, something about, we talk about transferable skills, and one of the comments was that AI can't decipher or read between the lines about your transferable skills. So essentially, in my world, there are two types of resumes. Not good and bad, but chronological or more skills based. And so if you are, let's say, a school teacher and you want to go to corporate America, if your page is littered with lesson planning, grading papers, in other words, the rote stuff that you do every day that pertains to teaching, I don't want to hire that. I want to hire somebody who can do training and development, who has presentation skills. And so I think it's incumbent upon us, literally on the resume itself, to list those skills that are needed in the job and then cite examples of how you've demonstrated that, whether it's in your prior work or in your volunteerism or in your classes you took in school. Because again, I want to see something that matches what I want. Yeah. So speak to that, if you could, about the skills, the value of the skills resume and really depicting that in some detail. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, we are definitely looking for that. When we're looking at resumes, we're looking for results, especially if they're sales driven, of course. But then we're definitely looking for, skills such as decision making, negotiation, presentation, trying to think of some of the others that we always, attention to detail. We are a very detail oriented, continuous we want to see people who have shown continuous growth, continuous learning, consistently, educating themselves on whatever industry they happen to be in, just because that's so important. But those are the things that we're looking for on a resume, because the other stuff, it's words. If they can say a skill and say how they've grown that skill or how they've developed that skill or how they've demonstrated that skill, that we can talk about in an interview.
Yeah.
The job title, all of that really doesn't even matter when we're looking at a resume.
Get you. All right. Let's move to another piece of this conversation. Because by golly, Wanda, I'm not coming to work for you unless you meet my expectations.
Boy.
I mean, that's the reality now. And I don't have any problem with this. I think the expectations need to be on both sides of the table. Randy, as my employer, has expectations of what I should do. Well, by golly, as the employee who wants to flourish, I have expectations of you. How are these at? What are some of the expectations you're running into the employees have, and how are you helping to work with that?
Well, since COVID, obviously, flexible work arrangements, hybrid work arrangements, fully remote work arrangements are all on people's lists. And we are offering, a hybrid environment. But more and more, somebody in the first interview will say, are you open to 100% remote? and we'll, if we say no, they're like, okay, I'm done talking. And so, when you're looking at this talent shortage and you're looking at your organization, how it was pre-COVID, and trying to figure out how do we bring that together. So we're kind of in the middle, which personally I think is where we're going to have to stay. One of the challenges we run into with the hybrid world, or with some people who are fully remote, is that, the folks coming in that need to learn, the people that they need to learn from are not there. So you've got some senior people who, yes, may have earned the right to be at home. But my intern conversion that's coming into work full time, they need somebody to sit next to and absorb, kind of all of the knowledge and, transfer of that knowledge to them. So, the expectation of flexibility, the expectation of, hybrid work environment, the expectation of compensation is through the roof. Because during COVID, when there was such a shortage, some organizations were just buying people. And offering absurd, salaries, but what they didn't take into account, it's easy to look at that number and be like, I gotta go, but we hired a lot of people back that did that during COVID, because they got there and they realized real quick, one, the culture was, stunk. They weren't investing in them as people. They also realized really quickly that, they may be offering them a higher salary, but they're probably doing the work of two people, so they're really getting burned out. So there is so much of that going on over the last 3 years that it's just changed the dynamic of the workforce.
Yeah. I'm okay with hybrid, Wanda. But I got to be in this office at 2:30 in the afternoon every afternoon, because my kegerator is like right there, and unless I can have a kegerator in my cube, so. But I get you. I mean,
negotiable. It's negotiable.
Is
Everything's
it really?
negotiable.
Is it?
It's negotiable. Yeah. Just get an Uber on the way home. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. I mean, but I think expectations are important. I think being clear about expectations on both sides are important. And by golly, if you want, someone in the office 100% of the time, and that's not for me, then we need to, there's a phrase that I won't use, but we need to understand that up front, because the earlier we understand that you're not going to be able to meet that expectation, or I'm not going to be able to meet that expectation, then, hey, Wanda, great to chat with you. Maybe I know somebody you need to know, and it's time for me to leave. Yeah. Randy, anybody you want to grab?
Well, yeah, there was one that deals with, and this is an age-old thing. It's a myth in my mind anyway. So correct me if I'm off base here. And that is
you're off base, Randy. Oh no, go ahead first.
Essentially, that there is evil software out there that will scan your resume looking for a certain number of keywords, and if you pass the smell test and you have enough of them, they go into a good pile where a set of eyeballs can look at it. If not, it gets thrown away and no set of eyeballs sees it. So I've been saying for years that technology technically exists, but it's not practical. And I think you said that, you're hands-on, you may not spend 10 minutes on an application, hopefully not, but applications, resumes get looked at very quickly. They still do today. Now, there are things like scoring questions and knockout questions. And if you want to dive into that, I mean, and I can answer that from a goodwill standpoint, sort of. But the point is, I want to dispel that myth, and I want to get any additional comments you have on this thing, that people, real people, still look at your stuff. They really do.
They do.
Right? Yeah. And so there's that. And that goes back to the whole networking thing, because if I have a stack of, 30 or whatever people, and they all pass the smell test because they had AI helping them, they all look like Teddy Burriss. They're spiffy and just right on target, right on point. How do I, as a recruiter, decipher who I want to talk to? And that's the power of that phone call or an email from a contact. Yeah.
You guys use one of your MMA across the country. You guys use an applicant tracking system. Do you all use the same tool?
Yes, all of MMA across, all of actually Marsh McLennan, 80,000 people actually uses, Workday is our ATS.
Yeah.
And we definitely, utilize the system. We do use some knockout questions, to try to, get rid of people that would, for example, sponsorship. We don't do sponsorship.
Yeah.
So we do use a couple of questions like that. But for the most part, every resume is going to get looked at. Some longer than others.
Yeah, it's good
That
news.
is good
Another
news.
knockout
Yes.
might be, are you legally able to work in the US?
Yes.
Are you age 18 or older? If it's no, you're out. But then there are scoring questions too. Can you speak to that too? What those do you deploy those at all? And if not, I can lead the witness.
Yeah, we do those types of questions, and we use something called HireView. And this is a video interviewing tool where we set it up. The applicant goes out there, they actually it'll ask them a question and they answer it live, and it records them, and then there's some written. So we do HireView, one, to see if somebody's willing to do it, because we really want people who are committed and really want the job. So that's the first screening tool is, will they even do it? But then the second is, we'll ask questions in there that, we're looking for specific answers. We'll ask them to write the answer to the question so we can see if they have written communication skills. So there's things that we're doing in that are intended to say, okay, let's narrow this pool of 30 down to 10. And usually that is a pretty quick way to do that.
Okay.
I get it. So, Todd wants to know, is that type of video interviewing tool really time efficient?
Yes.
Yeah, I would think if you're going to,
so much.
If you're going to interview 50, if you want to pre-screen via interview 100 candidates, then you need your AI tool to help you do that.
Yeah, no, it helps us. Well, and it just, even scheduling an interview, that takes time.
Yeah.
And so it's so much easier to, send them the link. They can do it on their time, so it's easier for them too. And then, we'll do in-person or regular interviews after that. But that's usually our first screening tool.
Yeah.
Hey, our comment chat area is lighting up here. So let me throw another one at you. How much weight, how much importance do you, and maybe not you personally, but let's say the plural you, do you associate with manners and clothing and in appearance, that sort of thing, versus the skills needed to do the job?
It means a lot. Professionalism means a lot to us. So if somebody, even on the HireView, even on the video interview, you have some people show up on that and be like, wow, like they just rolled out of bed kind of, situation. And so we won't go any further. So we do put some weight on that. I don't know that we really look at clothing as much, but are they tidy? Or can they carry themselves? That's going to be important in the roles that they carry for us. So we do pay attention to those things for sure.
They may vary depending on the job that they're applying.
Exactly.
If it's customer facing, if it's banking, let's say, versus working in a graphic design company, the culture, the dress code might be different to begin with. Yeah.
So a Swifty t-shirt during an interview versus a Led Zeppelin t-shirt, make any difference?
I don't know. That's a toss-up.
All right, let's go to this other thing. And when you and I talked about job descriptions, Wanda, I got up on my freaking soapbox because I hate the way people write job descriptions. My perspective is the person who wrote the very first job description to get published on a piece of paper or a mimeograph machine and got faxed around the world back in 1943 is still writing everybody's job descriptions today. And I'm being a little facetious. I think some have gotten better. What do you think? What's going on as we move forward with how companies are writing job descriptions?
And remember, Teddy, it's halfway through the show.
I get it. Oh, hey, Wanda, before you answer that question, let me do the bottom of the hour show. This is where Randy and I make our money, not. Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Our special guest today is Wanda Ladd. Wanda's from Marsh McLennan Agency out of Greensboro, I believe is where you are. And the conversations about what's going on in the future with hiring and onboarding. And so Wanda, again, thanks for being on the show. Thank you for our audience, all 15,001 of you who showed up today. Appreciate all of you. So Wanda, go back to job descriptions. What do you think?
I'm not a huge fan. I also am not a lover of job descriptions for a couple of reasons. One is I think, they're dated almost as soon as you write them. The world that we live in and the pace at which we work and the pace at which things change today is just so fast. Yeah. So I find that they, really don't represent a lot of times what somebody is actually doing. And I think, we've seen too, growth is happening in a lot of different ways. So it used to be, a job description for one job, and then you climb the ladder, and then you move up to the next job, and you would just keep climbing the rungs of the ladder, and there was a new job description for each one. Whereas today, really, people are growing in more of a lattice way. And so it's more of a lattice structure where, I'm growing by being part of a stretch project, or I'm growing by being on a national work group that's focused on something specific that I'm going to contribute to. So, it isn't as much about climbing a ladder as more as it is about the depth of your knowledge and the breadth of your knowledge within the organization. And that makes you more valuable as a colleague. Maybe you're a specialist in an industry, or, there's so many ways that people can grow without going up. And I think that we're trying to promote that, and, job descriptions don't lend themselves to that, because, you could be in the same role as somebody else, but you're being pulled into these different things that aren't included on your job description, but become a very big part of what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, good point. I forgot about you and I had talked about you see our world and business and careers not being a ladder, but being a lattice. And by the way, that's more steps for you to falter, or more steps for you to prove you have the ability. I pulled that one out, didn't I? So, but the other dislike I have about job descriptions is in the talent awareness, getting talent to discover you. There's very little in a job description that tells that candidate, this is what we're going to do for you. This is how you will grow, how you would excel. And it's not I think it needs to be more of a marketing piece, especially when you post it on LinkedIn and, job boards all over the place, and not about, here's the recipe we want. Are you one of the components we need in this? So yeah, I'm with you. A good point about the it's not a ladder anymore. Randy?
Yeah, I got another one too that deals with the value of what I'll call formal education versus maybe the weight you apply to years in the job or with the skills to do the work. What's the mindset with companies these days about the importance of college education, master's degrees, et cetera?
We certainly still look for those things. I will say it's not probably as quick to rule somebody out as it used to be. At least for us, it isn't, because, what we're looking, it used to be, oh, you went to this school or you got this degree. And, now it's kind of, you've proven you have the capability of continuous learning. And it's really more about that desire for knowledge, the ability to balance, what you've got going on while you're in school. So for us, it has not, definitely doesn't play the same role of a knockout like it used to. It used to be, okay, there's no bachelor's degree, we're not going to look at this resume. That's not the case anymore. We certainly will look, and we really do look for continuous learning. Like, is this person going to be engaged in learning? Because our industry is always changing. And if somebody's going to get stuck in the way it was, they're not going to fit for us, just because we are very much a brains business. We're selling the expertise of our people. So if they aren't keeping current, it's not going to work. So we look at it from that perspective more so than anything else.
So are you telling me then I can take off my resume the fact that I visited MIT, I visited Yale, and I visited Harvard? I can take that off my resume?
I think it's safe. It's a safe bet.
Hey, here's one for you, and you'll have to educate me a little bit. So with MMA, are they a recruiting firm and recruit also at all? Or so that goes back to what Greg asked as a question. He says, based off Teddy's question about job descriptions, what type of conversations does your firm have with organizations, your clients, when they are searching for candidates? How does your agency prepare organizations about the current environment? Because again, they're stuck in the hey, I got to write a job description. I want MMA to do it for me.
So
What kind of
we
pushback do you
do
get?
have an HR. We have an HR consulting component to our organization, but we are primarily insurance. So all lines of insurance, so employee health and benefits, property and casualty, private client. So we are mainly selling insurance, but a lot of our clients don't have that HR arm. And so we will utilize our HR consulting team to be that arm for those people. So it's a small component of what we do, but we have some amazing HR consultants out there, and they do a great job of being the HR person for a smaller organization that doesn't have the staff in-house.
So they help them. Okay. I've got, it's a mind shift change. And I kind of wonder too, because, I've had this happen over the years where, hey, Randy, you've got a lot of skills in other areas. You can do a lot of stuff. How about we have you do a little of this and a little of that? We're not going to pay anymore. But it's like Teddy. Teddy's got me doing things left and right. I haven't seen a raise in 3+ years, Teddy. I think I'm about ready to, maybe I might have to seek greener pastures somewhere.
Yeah. Well, at least now, Randy, after 190 shows, you do show up with your socks on. I'm proud of you for that.
I do. I guess, that ambiguity piece. I want to know what's expected of me in my job. Okay. I want to be challenged. And if it just says the job description just says other duties as needed, then that's kind of an open pit. And I kind of wonder, is that something I want to open myself up to? I mean, where are the guardrails here to ensure that I'm not being asked to do things that are way out there? I don't know.
Our conversations are usually more around how are we going to invest in you? And so when we say that, if we determine somebody, has potential, for example, it is a career conversation with them to say, how's it going? What do you like about what you're doing? What do you not like about what you're doing? What do you want to do? Once we have that conversation, then we can kind of determine, career path, what could that look like? And it will align with what we need as well as what they want. And we actually have somebody on staff who's a colleague mobility coach. And that's what they do, is have these career conversations with the employees and with the managers to help with that conversation. And that's usually when we just say, okay, you really are looking to grow in this way. If you got involved in this project, that's going to give you some skills that's really going to help you to help project you into that direction. So it's really much more consultative, conversational than it is, here's the job description, this is what it is. Like it's more tapping somebody to say, would you be interested in being part of this work group? Would you be interested in, leading this project? Are you willing to train? You seem to be really good at this skill. Are you willing to train the rest of the team on this? So all of those things are helping that employee grow and develop, and it's investing in them, but it's on the path that they want to go to.
Now, we got to hope that it's on the path of where they want to go. Or, and I get it, better organizations are going to be more strategic about assigning new ideas to someone that can help them grow. But and you and Randy don't live in these environments because you work for really good organizations. And I don't live in this environment because I work for myself. But there are a lot of companies out there Betty just quit and there's no one to empty the trash can out twice a day. That's now your job. That's never going to, unfortunately, I don't believe that will ever stop. Assigning stuff that needs to be done because Betty quit. So all right, let's go to the other question that Randy wanted me to put in here, and that is networking to find a job, networking to get an interview, networking to get a job. I would wager that if you had a job description out there that appealed to me in some way or another, I know 10 people I could call to make sure you take a look at my profile. And maybe for Randy, that he may know some people that he could say that to. how does that play in the process? I mean, I get it.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to say, look at this resume, and you're going to be polite. If not totally accepting of the request or whatever. How does that play in the whole big picture?
Well, I will say employee referrals is our number one source for hires. Like that is where we get the majority, or not the majority, but that is the number one source for us.
Well, I'm sorry, you said what?
Program.
Do you say network? I didn't hear it literally. It might cut out on me. What?
Employee referrals.
Employee referrals. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have a formal process where people can refer people into the postings that we have. And they get paid for it. You know, they get paid if we end up hiring that person. Yeah. Yes. But I will say, even if we don't get somebody from a referral, we will look at who they're connected with on LinkedIn. So it speaks to the importance of LinkedIn for sure. You know, if they went to a certain school in a certain timeline, we might ask if somebody knows them, or if we know somebody who works where where they used to work. But the number one way is employee referrals. And then I would say LinkedIn connections are the two places we look the most to see if we can, gather any more, information about that colleague and if they would be a fit for us. Because, skills are important, but that cultural fit, and their ability to work in an environment that works at our pace, that's what's really important. We can teach some of the other stuff. Some of that other stuff we can't teach.
Yeah. You may or may not want to speak to this. And if you don't want to speak to it, you can just simply say, "Oh, Tay, I don't get involved in that." But do you also use LinkedIn connections to find people to ask for references on candidates? So you don't have to, I don't have to give you references?
No, we do not. We do not even do reference checks, if I'm being honest, anymore. People are giving you who they want you to talk to. Most organizations won't say anything. Occasionally we will check, and somebody will say, we'll ask the question, are they eligible for rehire? Sometimes you can get an answer to that question that's a yes or a no, which can be telling. But really we have not found a lot of value in reference checks like we used to.
Yeah. And well, let me spin it. Even in that, they'll say that you're going to hire Randy Wooden, and that I know Randy Wooden. You wouldn't call me and go, "Teddy, is he a good hire?" Or whatever words you use.
If I know you have a relationship, I probably would.
Okay. Right. By the way, you can hire Randy. So, cool. All right. The interview process. We've talked a little bit about video interviewing, using my satirical words, using AI to help you do that first video interview. But what else has changed in that whole experience, that whole engagement of interviewing people, whether it's through the camera or kneecap to kneecap at a table?
Well, we're definitely trying to move it quicker. Just because the pace of the market is faster. So we're going to lose candidates if it's a long drawn out process. We do find that we are typically doing a talent acquisition, like our team is doing a screening interview in addition to the video interview. And then we're trying to get the teams, like the team that they're going to interview with. It's usually at least 2 people, sometimes more, but we're trying to, have it be, okay, all on one day. We're trying to get those teams to make those decisions quickly. It's really all about, trying to nab the top candidate. And that top candidate typically is not just interviewing with you. So it's about, the experience. And then, even once they've said yes, there's a vulnerable time between once they've said yes and when they actually start. So we have even built stuff into our process in those, 2 to 4 weeks in between those two things to try to make sure to reaffirm that they've made the right decision to come join us because we're awesome. And so, it's really, 4 years ago, we weren't thinking about that. We didn't feel vulnerable in that time, but absolutely today, that's a very important time to that process.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are candidates who said yes and know that they have 2 weeks before they have to prove yes. and there are other horses in the race that they're milking along. If I can merge a bunch of, you know, thoughts there, that they're like, okay, I got that offer letter from company A. I need company B's offer letter.
Yep. Well, and they're also going back to their current employers, giving notice and getting offers there. So we actually coach applicants. Once we've made an offer, we say, okay, look, we know when you go back, you are awesome, and they're going to want to try and keep you, you know, so we try to coach them on what to expect when they give their notice and how to, you know, and to keep them coming in our direction.
So you tell them that everything they say is going to be an outright lie.
Yeah, don't take a counter offer. That's not the way to go. I tell you, back when I was a headhunter, this is the Stone Age. This is when fax machines were in vogue. No internet, no emails, no nothing. We made good money, you know, sourcing candidates and getting them placed. The perception was, and you may not want to tackle this one, the perception among many of our client companies was, hey, I'm paying you guys a fee to go out and find somebody. I can find that unemployed guy who's answering every job ad out there. I want you to find that passive candidate. The perception is, if I'm paying something, I perceive the person who's not out there pecking away back before the keyboard, but figuratively. Now, let's fast forward that to today. Unemployment rate is pretty low. Yes, there are plenty of job hunters out there. What is the perception? And again, you may not want to tackle this. What's the general perception in the business world when I'm saying, okay, I can't find people, but yet this person is unemployed? Is there a stigma attached to that in this day and age as much? Now that we're past COVID, I get it. COVID, it was a bloodbath. So now we're a couple 3 years past that ish, a year or two. Is the stigma, is it real? Is it perceived? Because I have a lot of job clients that say, I can work. I want to work. I've got good skills. Nobody will touch me.
I think it's going to depend on the organization. I know for us, we would look at the prior experience, you know, before the unemployment, we would look at that. But then we would also, you know, if that was what we wanted to see, then it was more of the question in the interview. So help us understand, you know, your current situation, you know, why did you, you know, we've even like when looking at like veteran hiring, a lot of spouses of veterans will have big gaps of employment, you know, when they moved from city to city or something. And so, you know, learning to ask the right questions so that you can dig into that and really understand it and get comfortable with it. You know, if I can get comfortable with why you're unemployed right now, you know, and I don't feel like it's because of lack of effort, I don't feel it's because of you were fired. If I don't, you know, if I can get comfortable with why, I'm still going to consider you for that role.
So let's peel that back just one other layer here then. That what you just said implies that I get a chance to tell you my story. A lot of people that, you know, they'll apply and they don't hear anything back. So, and I tell them, you know, hey, call the company, find somebody who knows somebody who can email somebody in the company. That's what I tell them. I'd love if you could tell them that, or say, hey, listen, I want to tell my story. How do I get a chance with home plate and a bat in my hand to be able to get a hit here? How do I crack that wall?
I think making sure your resume is really good on the front end, like before you were on it, you know, making sure you really articulated it well before. And then I do think that, you know, having somebody, you know, we try to like communicate with people whether we're going to talk to them or not. And so if you have somebody that can, if you can call, if you're going to have the tenacity and, you know, the grit to find a person to talk to, I mean, that says something to me that you really are interested in this job and you want to be considered. So I don't think that's bad advice. Now, certainly if there's somebody in the role, you know, the length of unemployment could deter potentially, but I would definitely encourage people to call. You know, my team might disagree, but I would certainly, you know, if somebody wants this job that bad, you know, that says something to me, because that tenacity is hard to find.
Yeah, it comes back to you have to stand out from every other candidate. And if you have if you have perceived, and this goes back in some respects to, I think it's Milan's question, if you have perceived aspects of you, or that someone, ageism, out of work, ex-offender, whatever, you got to stand out a little bit bigger and better. And sometimes you can't do that on your own. You have to have people help you, which is again why Randy and I rant and rave about the importance of networking. Yeah. We got 10 minutes left. I want to make sure I hit a couple really big ones. I want to really touch on the new generation stuff, Wanda, but we'll get to that in a minute. So hang tight, folks, because we're going to talk about that about before the show ends. Onboarding. What are you doing differently on onboarding? Do you make sure that their desk has a tape dispenser, a Rolodex, a stapler, a staple remover, or is it a little bit more than that, Wanda?
Actually, quite a bit more, because onboarding used to be about culture. That's what it was. Were they welcomed when they walked in the front door? Was their desk set up? Is there a foosball table in the kitchen? Did you take them to lunch on the first day? And culture is no longer that. You can't get a sense for an organization necessarily anymore because you're not walking in the front door. Your computer equipment was shipped to your house. And so there's a lot that has changed for us, I know, from an onboarding perspective. We talked about that vulnerable period before they even start. There's a lot of communication, the gift box sent to their house, different things to try to make them realize they've made the right decision, get them excited to come. I mean, we're sending them a song and a video the day before they come, telling them how excited we are for them to start.
Did you say a bong?
Then they really come to work for us. No.
I'll show up when I show up.
But yeah, there's so much that we're doing, and then it's really, people don't really think about the additional work that managers now have with a hybrid workforce. Every single communication touch point has to be intentional, especially with a new hire. They don't have the network, they don't have the connections. Like, if you're not telling them to call somebody or to, schedule lunch with somebody, if you're not doing all of those things, it's not going to happen. So it's a lot more work for managers because everything has to be intentional. Every phone call, every meeting they're invited to, it's not like you can just grab them on your way into the meeting anymore and, pull them in so they can learn something. That's not how it works anymore. So it's very, you have to be deliberate, and we have to help our managers to be deliberate because they don't know. They haven't had to do this before, and it's just different.
Yeah. Is are relocation packages still a thing for the right
They
role?
are, but they're probably less frequent, and it's for the specific roles.
Yeah. And the other thing, another activity that I believe has changed somewhat in some positions, mostly management positions, executive positions, you weren't just hiring an employee, you were bringing a family into the organization. So you had to show the wife and the kids and that other girlfriend, satire there, that they were important to you as well. As you're hiring their husband, but that that action has an impact on that family.
One of the reasons we send the welcome box to their house and not the office for their first day.
Cool. So Dale dropped in that networking is not who you know, it's who know you. And Dale's absolutely right. He's read my books and he's read Dale Carnegie. That's absolute fact. So all right. Let's put in this next one that you and I talked about, and that is the fact that today in the workforce there are lots of different generations, and there's also lots of opinions about how these different generations fit into our workforce today. And so talk a little bit about what you're seeing and some insights about, MMA. How does that, or your organization, work to make the best out of all of these unique generations that come to work today?
I think there's, like you said, there's a lot of misperceptions or misconceptions about all the different generations. The entitlement and the not hardworking and not loyal and all that for the younger generations. We're finding that, like, for example, our interns, and when we convert them to full-time hires afterwards, they want to be in the office. Like, they're in the office more than anybody else in the entire company. They're there 5 days a week. They're showing up. They want to learn. But everybody thinks, oh, they want remote positions. They don't. We're not seeing that at all. We're seeing that they want to be there and they want people there that they can learn from. We also have a lot of people who are in their roles. They've been there forever. They don't want to move up. They're fabulous at what they do, but finding ways to take advantage of those subject matter experts and pulling them in as mentors, pulling them in as people who can teach classes to other students, and really trying to find ways to utilize the skills that each of the generations have. And we actually had a class that we were going to teach on generations, and we changed it completely because we've really found it's more stage of life. It really doesn't matter how old you are. It's more, are you at a stage where you're now married and having children? You have different needs. Are you at a stage where, you want to travel more? You're going to have more needs. Are you at a stage where you're just coming into the workforce? So we've kind of stopped using like Gen Z and, baby boomers, all the generation names, just because we've found that it's really what's going on with you personally. You're a person in addition to being an employee, and that's what's driving what your needs are in the workforce. And so really trying to figure out, how do we work within that? How do we help people grow, and how do we be open to what each individual needs are, because I'm not going to categorize you with somebody else just because you're the same age as them.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wanda. I will bust my butt for 24 hours a day working for my next boss, as long as I only have to work 1 day a week. So I mean, that's my need in my where I am in my life. I'm with you. So Randy, anything else in chat you want to grab?
Not so much, but just a quick comment that times change. And I referred a couple times kind of facetiously back to the Stone Age of fax machines and newspaper ads and all that. But you bring excellent points that said, hey, the way we source folks, we onboard them, things change. And whether it's remote work, in office, the technology involved, nothing stays the same. And so if you're not at least open to and flexible with some of that change, you're going to get left behind. And so talent's out there. How do we source it? And so I appreciate you coming on with some excellent tips. Thanks, Wanda. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. I dropped your LinkedIn profile URL. I don't have your home address to tell people where to send you cookies and gifts. So yeah, Wanda, thank you for showing up. Really do appreciate. Thank you for sharing, and thank you got me thinking. I wrote down some really cool notes that lots of intentional touch points during onboarding, interviewing. Do this process quicker, and don't stop looking for the yes. Are we sure? Are we sure? Are we good? Are we good? You don't ask it that way. And I really like the context that you shared, that our careers are no longer a ladder, it's a lattice, and it's a much more enjoyable route because you get to pick up new ideas that may take you over here instead of over here. And so thank you very much, Wanda. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Cool. Randy, what do we have coming up next? Oh, is that Ms. Martin?
Cindy Martin, and she's been on the call. I don't know if she's still on or not. She was attending today. She was the one asking about the appearance, the dress, professionalism during the interviews. She is, bar none, she's an expert on professionalism, etiquette, and she coaches that individually and with groups and so forth. She's been on their show several times. She is a fount. Can I use that word? A fount of information, Teddy?
Yeah.
And she'll be on next. Yeah, that's a word. She'll be on the 6th as our special guest. Once again, we're going to talk about professionalism, mannerisms, the way our body moves. All of these things denote certain things. And we'll unlock the secrets of body language and other tips. How's that sound, Teddy? Is a good teaser.
There you go.
Anyway,
Yeah,
Dale.
how to stand out in the crowd.
Yeah, you betcha. How to stand out. And Dale, who's on the attendee list today, he's going to be our substitute co-host because Teddy's taking a week off to
go
do
play.
something.
Yeah.
He's going to go play. So thanks again, Wanda. Appreciate it. Teddy, throw it back to you.
Thank
Take
you.
us out of here.
Hey, thanks to our audience.
Yep.
I love you guys showing up. Wanda, again, thank you very much. Let's say hi another day. Randy, go off and have fun, buddy, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Good deal. See you now.
Thank you.